Hey, alla Richard Nutzel fan, ha. I'm bringing you guys an old school album review, and today we're going to be talking about this album's 15th anniversary, and it's from one of my all-time favorite bands, and as you can see below the title, today we're going to be talking about Pitch Black Progress by Symmetry. This was the band's second album released on April 21st, 2006 through Nuclear Blast Records. Now this follows up their debut album, Symmetric in Design, which came out a year prior. And for me, Symmetry, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated bands in just not just in the whole melodic death metal scene, but just in metal as a whole. And honestly, this album is also just a criminally underrated album, especially not in Symmetry's catalog because all their albums are great, but just in metal in general. And I feel like a lot of people say like the whole like Gothenburg death metal, or even just this whole Swedish death metal scene has nothing left to offer with like other bands like In Flames, Dark Tranquility, At the Gates, The Haunted, Soilwork, they're bands like that. But I feel like Symmetry basically put us out an album that just shatters all these accusations with the Pitch Black Progress, or even like the previous album, Symmetric in Design. But I feel like with this album coming off of a Symmetric in Design, I feel like Pitch Black Progress kind of like shows promise of a band that would combine sort of like brutal elements of death metal with the best of like European metal. But I honestly think this album is pretty much shows like a grown-up Symmetry and a band that just shows more than just they promise. Let's just dive right into this. Production-wise, I really great as always. Let's just talk about just the vocal work. In my honest opinion, I think Christian Ahlstrom, in my honest opinion, is one of the most underrated vocalists, not just in melodic death metal, but just in metal as a whole. Because I just love how he is able to go from like having just like brutal death metal growls and then immediately kind of just switch to clean singing. And he's just really just amazing. It just showcased how much of a vocalist he is. And I really wish he would still in this band, but they're still doing good with, even if they have like two vocalists to replace one. But I think they're still good regardless, but that's besides the point. The guitar work is tight. Per Nilsson and Jonas Kilgren's guitar playing is solid, just like the riffs and just the soloing on this album is amazing, and it really just showcases how well they just go together. The bass is, I kind of wish was a little bit audible, but I feel like Kenneth just follows like what Per and Jonas does. And drumming wise, Henrik has a great job on the drums. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Get started things off is The Illusionist. And the synths that start this song is really just sets like the whole atmosphere, and then the guitars kick in and it just has some really great shattering drums that just pound you away, knowing that you're just listening to a great band. It doesn't let down at all. And then it also features like Christian's amazing vocals, which he goes from like just deep growls to like really just amazing harmonizing clean vocals, and he's really truly an amazing singer. And this first track really just showcases what this band is all about and pretty much what you're going to expect from this album as a whole. Then moving on to Slaves to the Subliminal. No, this song is just a punch to the face, and this shows you that it's not going to be a dull album. And there's like heavy riffing right from the start, and you thought the growling on the Illusionist was violent because as Christian just sounds like just a raging demon. But what if this is the whole song has changed? I just love how Christian goes from an angry demon to like a clean singing angel of a man. It's just really interesting, and I love how the song changes pace from uplifting and memorable two-part chorus with an awesome guitar melody in the background, which makes sure it gets you stuck in your head for weeks. Moving on to Mind Machine, and this track's kind of like shows like Christian's like calmer side, and it opens up with a guitar riff that will stick in your head. And this track is, I feel like, could have been single worthy as one of those choruses you'll find yourself like humming till the end of the day. It's a great song. And then we get to the title track of the album, Pitch Black Progress, which is one of the, in my opinion, least melodic of the entire album. It's just a freight train song with just a scream chorus, but really just loved, especially like there's like a talk session which leads into the next track, which is cool, which would be Calculate the Apocalypse, which is another brutal song from Symmetry, and it's one of the first songs I ever heard from this band. It's just pure speed and brutality with its amazing sung chorus and its growl, and then the fast-paced verses are really just stand out, and they just seemingly glide into the chorus. It's another great song and one of my favorites, if I must say. Dreaming 24/7, and as soon as I heard this song, I knew it's going to be an album favorite, and the lead guitar line is just amazing. But I just didn't really expect it to be sort of like, in a way, the ballad of the album. Not that it's a ballad, it's just as it mainly sung. And this album just gets better and better as it goes on. And then we move on to Abstracted Mind, or just Abstracted. I fucked it up there. And this, I feel like, is considered a little bit of a filler track, but this, I don't know, for some reason this song doesn't really stand out to me. Even the solo kind of feels a little bit bland, but it's still it's an okay song. Nothing really great. But then we move on to the Kaleidoscopic God, and this track just blows you away, which clocks in at a little over 7 minutes long, and it's just truly immense. And the verses are just pure brutality, and it's like typical Scar Symmetry chorus that gives it their sort of signature sound. And then the solo hits, and it's just very immense, followed by some of Christian's most guttural growls, and he goes into like a little opera sounding thing in the middle of it, and this song just keeps going but just never gets boring. It's a very genius song and one of my favorites. Moving on to Retaliator, and this is a signature Scar Symmetry song, and should be glad that they have like a little bit of like variety here. And instead of growling, he screams with sort of like a distorted effect in his voice, and it leads into a great chorus, and this is truly a standout on this album. It deserves the rating it gets. Escalation Point. Now this is another filler song. It does have like a great intro, and the rest of the song kind of like is slightly exciting, but there's nothing much to say here apart from like the last chorus, which is done really well and has a really great acoustic guitar leading up to the last great chorus. Then we move on to the Path of Least Resistance, which is another really filler track, which I'm probably not going to get into. Carved in Stone, which I think this track redeems itself at the end very, very well. Has a very polished sounding intro, which leads into like a nice clean verse, and this song is very progressive, and it just gets really heavier and heavier as it goes. And then we finally close off the album with Deviates from the Form. And just when you thought the album might have a slightly disappointing ending, this song just opens up with a riff that'll just slap you awake and just takes you in with a great clean verse, and the pre-chorus is brutal. And it just leads into sort of like the great like choruses that Scar Symmetry has, and then the middle of it has kind of like stuck in your head for weeks now. It's just brutal yet catchy, and I think it's a great way to end this album. Now overall, Pitch Black Progress by Scar Symmetry is a great album in their discography. I feel like this is an album that you really need to listen to more. Just if you're just a fan of just like melodic death metal or just a metal in general, well, you need to listen to this album. You will not be disappointed. So if I have to give this album a score, I'm going to give Pitch Black Progress by Scar Symmetry a 9 out of 10. So that's my review of the album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the album, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal. Take.